Watch PunkTV.ca for all the best modern rock videos and interviews.
This is your Aggro boss, Jesse, with the Aggrolites, and you're watching PunkTV.ca.
I'm Dixon here from PunkTV.ca. We're here with Jesse from the Aggrolites.
How's it going, Dixon?
Dude, this is an honor. You know, the Aggrolites have been charting in the top 5 on Punk TV for probably the last year.
Wow, no, I didn't. That's cool, man.
So you guys got 3 albums that you've dropped in the last about 2.5 years, eh?
Yeah, last 2.5 years we've had, well, the first one that came out was our self-titled. That was the first release on Hellcat.
Right.
After that, we did Tim Armstrong's solo album, A Poet's Life. And then just last year, we came out with an album called Reggae Hit L.A. Our first album's called Dirty Reggae. That came out on a different label called Aggrolites Records, and that was back in probably 2002. So that's the start of it all.
All right, so you guys from L.A.?
Yeah, the band always played L.A., started in L.A. Everybody lived in L.A. at one time, so L.A.'s his home spot.
All right, so tell us about the evolution of the Aggrolites, and you guys call this dirty reggae, but obviously it's two-tone, it's roots. There's a lot of ska and punk rock influences in your music. Tell us about where you guys found the soul and the core of your sound.
Well, we were all like, a lot of the guys, we all have different influences. The main influence that we're all into is early reggae, which is you know, late 60s, early 70s era. You know, when it got big in the UK in around 69 or so. Punk rock, you know, ska, two-tone, all that obviously got us into digging deeper into the roots of Jamaican music. So we call it dirty reggae because, you know, we're doing it our own way. We're influenced by American soul, you know, early reggae, and like you said, punk rock and two-tone. And you know, it's not exactly the sound of it, but what we all have a passion about early reggae is how they recorded it and how it was just gritty and dirty and recorded live in one room, and they were pounding out, you know, 20-25 songs a day, and you know, it's a tough music, you know, it's the
sound of the streets. It's a lot more street.
So I think Lee Perry said music from the ghetto, lyrics from the streets. I always thought that was a really cool way of putting it.
Yeah. So the big question, of course, would be, how did you meet up with Tim Armstrong, and knowing the contribution that Tim Armstrong has to Rancid, being a fan, obviously, of that side of Rancid as well as the rock side, but being a fan of the Lars side and the Tim side, being a fan of that, tell us about meeting him and then coming into that relationship and how it felt.
Well, Hellcat was always the ideal record label that we wanted to be on, because we knew that they had an idea of exactly how to market our band, and a lot of other labels would be confused about what we play exactly. We used to be in a band, 3 of the guys, which is me, our guitar player Brian, and our drummer Corey. Used to have a band called the Rhythm Doctors, which was from the late 90s. And Tim was interested in that band at the time, him and Chris LaSalle at Hellcat, but they signed so many bands at the time that they couldn't fit putting someone new on the label. And we jumped over to TKO Records, which was based out of San Francisco.
Josh is our buddy.
Yeah, cool. And album came out, we broke up shortly after. There was a couple other guys, our organ player Roger and our old bass player Jay, who had a band called the Vessels. They were doing the exact same thing. It was, you know, mainly organ-driven, early reggae. Their band broke up. We all had, like, it was a big circle of musicians out of LA that were, you know, really passionate about this kind of music. And I don't know, from there on, we just wanted to get it together and pick the favorite musicians that we had that knew reggae really good. And Tim Armstrong lives, you know, in Los Angeles, and you know, certain guys would see him around. Our guitar player Brian ran into Chris LaSalle at Trader Joe's or something like that, which is a grocery store, and told him about the Aggrolites. They came to see us, and the rest is history.
does the writing process work with you working with Tim? Does he bring a lot of it to you guys? It sounds so much like the Aggrolites, and it sounds so much like Tim Armstrong too.
That was a very interesting day, actually. We booked studio time to record our self-titled album, and we actually recorded that after the Tim album. And the self-titled album was released before the Tim album, so it seemed like, you know, we did the Tim thing after. It was cool. He called us up, didn't really tell us exactly what the project was, but said he wanted to get in the studio with us. And we booked 2 days with him, which is before we started recording our own album. So we had everything set up. He came down with an acoustic guitar, got in a room with us, and started singing us these songs. And they were excellent songs, as you could tell. They sounded like Rancid songs at the time. They were punk rock songs. And we asked him what he wanted us to do, and he said, well, make it dirty reggae. I want it to sound like your guys' album. So he gave us full go-ahead to make it our own way. So we would structure the songs into reggae songs. We pounded out about 14 tunes that first day. The next thing you know, Tim took the songs home, worked on them in his house with his engineer, and about a year later, we heard it with the rest of the world. And I thought it was the coolest thing because when we gave it to him, it sounded like an Aggrolites album. You know, it was because it was all just us playing and instrumentals and stuff. You know, we do backup vocals and things like that also, but it still sounded like an Aggrolites album. Once he took it into his own hands, the way he produced it, where he kept our element but put his own element into it, I thought that was really, I thought it was an amazing album and a big honor to be a part of, you know. And
Into Action?
Into Action, same story with Into Action. He came in the studio and you know, a few of the guys recorded it early on because he did that with Sky Sweetnam, who's a Canadian star, right?
Yeah, her album's not as good as Tim's, let me tell you that. The track that he did with her is the best thing on her album.
Yeah, well, I think he was writing a lot with her at the time, and that was the Into Action song, actually, from what I recently discovered, is that's Sky Sweetnam has her own lyrics to it and her own.
She's got a version of this she does where she sings the whole thing and he does the backup and vice versa.
So I believe it was originally written for her as a single or for her album, but when Tim did A Poet's Life, you know, he had that song and he wanted to bring her on and involve her in it. So
because he'll do one song with he'll sing a song or do one song with most of the bands that he produces, eh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's always one of those guys that you know, big family, you know, always keeps people involved, and you know, as you can see, like the things he does with Rancid and all the other Hellcat bands, you know, he's always keeping people involved in his circle. So it's really cool to be a part of that.
Did you know that Into Action would be the hit?
I knew the songs from the day we recorded it and didn't hear it until it was out on the internet, you know. I'd come down, I went to his house once and did backup vocals for a few songs, but at the time I still couldn't tell what was a hit and what wasn't. I just know that we gave it everything we had to try to structure it the best ways possible as far as reggae goes, or the way we, you know, interpret reggae. And it was kind of funny because then we were doing our own album 2 days later, and we kind of were like, oh man, we're kind of out of ideas now, you know. So we had to
giving all your best ideas to Tim.
Yeah.
It's the right place to give them, though. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so your heroes then of rock and roll, heroes of ska, heroes of reggae, big influences for you guys? I'm
a huge Otis Redding fan, James Brown fan, Motown all the way, Wilson Pickett.
All great pipes.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I see a lot of Mohawks. We got these punk rockers in the audience today, right? Where you at? Come on, man. We got some Clash fans.
Rock! Watch PunkTV.ca for all the best modern rock videos and interviews.